that first critique about the infection thesis, that's principally, not exclusively, the de Boer thesis. That the articulation of, using your language, which I love, the rejection thesis is the Masselink interaction with him on common grace. And I think what we have to see here is that these are kind of the dialectical polar extremes of misunderstanding Van Til, and I think they have a twofold root. On the one side, I don't think the de Boers penetrated to the true difference with absolute idealism that Van Til articulated in his dissertation and in his reviews. Van Til was so clear on the fundamental difference between a self-contained triune God who remains self-contained at the alpha and omega point of history and at every point in between. And the absolute idealist cannot maintain a self-contained triune God at any point in relating to creation. So I think there is a failure to penetrate to the philosophical and theological differences between Reformed theology and idealism. On the rejection thesis, on the or on the infection thesis. On the rejection thesis, with Masselink and others, I'll tell you, and I don't want to oversimplify this, but I think there is a baseline failure to appreciate that when Van Til's talking about the creator-creature relation after the fall, he has in view not Roman Catholic, not Arminian, not Lutheran, certainly not Socinian views of the image of God and the effects of the fall on image bearers. He has in view something very distinctive that he has inherited from from Augustine, from Calvin, from the Westminster Standards. And so when he's addressing the question from the standpoint of interaction with Reformed theologians, I think there's a failure to appreciate how programmatically clear Van Til is being about a distinctive view of image of God and sin that he is trying to develop in his anthropology that is not shared by less consistent Calvinists, by Arminians, by the Lutheran tradition, or by the Socinian tradition, or the Roman Catholics. And so if I put it positively, I think there has been in all of these criticisms a fundamental failure to understand Van Til, the Reformed biblical and systematic theologian. There's just been a baseline lack of interaction with where he is as a theologian whose primary influences are the likes of Voss and Bavinck and Old Princeton, and in back of that, Calvin. And so I think before we run into the philosophical milieu, and this is what I love about Defense of the Faith, Van Til's going to remind us, look, before you talk any kind of philosophical pre-commitments, just realize I am a biblical and systematic Reformed theologian indebted to the teaching of the scriptures and self-consciously doing my best to expound the theology and the ecumenical creeds and the Reformed confessions and apply that, the best of that, to these issues that range from idealism to the problem of common grace.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So what I hear you saying is that we're going to have a Reformed theological discussion with Van Til in order to address this twofold critique that comes at him from fellow Dutch Reformed theologians. We're going to have a conversation about the nature of the self-sufficient, self-existent God, the all-determining decree, the creation of man as the image of God, God's voluntary condescension and covenant, and the nature of the fall by Adam, who remains the image of God but loses the ethical dimension of that image entirely. And then in the wake of that, God's restraining hand of common grace until the final judgment These are the categories that Van Til is working with to address both the infection thesis and the rejection thesis.